Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello. Yes, this is Kiddo live in real time. Thanks so much for watching that last 15 minutes. Um, I'm I'm here to moderate a panel. So I come from a small town called San Juan La Union. We're located. I always tell people just go to the end of Manila, turn right, and go straight. And we're on the left-hand side after 275 kilometers. So you'll find us in San Juan La Union, and I'm really honored to be, I guess, um, moderating this panel discussion with two people that I'm looking forward to learning from over the next half hour or so. So first, I'd like to introduce Lino Cayetano from Taguig, the mayor of Taguig, and Butch Karungay from Cebu. I'm sure there's some applause going on from multiple points around around the world. Lino and Butch, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you, Kiddo. Hello, everyone.
Hey. Hello, everyone. I'm assuming, Butch, you're in Cebu.
Yes, I am.
And Lino, you're in Taguig.
Yes, I'm in Taguig. I'm in the office. Hello.
Cool.
Hello, Sir Butch. Hello po.
Hello, Mayor Lino. Nice to meet you here.
I'm coming to you from my office as well. This is our bar, but it's as you know, bars are quite limited right now, so it's become our office. But it's called the Shrine of Satisfaction. It's on the second floor of our coffee bar and roastery downstairs. It's a little bit more private, and it's another example of the design values that I spoke of in our talk. So it's designed by my business partner and one of my best friends, Mia Sebastian. So I'll get into before we get into the questions, maybe a little bit about what you guys have been up to lately, especially in the creative, concerning the creative sector in your respective areas, I guess. Butch, can you tell us about your involvement in the creative economy, creative futures in Cebu specifically, and what your work is like over there?
God, how much time do you have, kiddo?
maybe in a paragraph. Give me a paragraph.
Maybe in the last year lang, because I've been involved with the creative sectors here for quite some time, beginning with, when Cebu first got designated a creative city by British Council in 2008. But in 2019, I led the bid for the UNESCO Creative Cities bid, which we got as a city of design in October 2019. So I've been quite busy with that. Last year, I worked with UNDESA. First to quantify, originally it was supposed to be to quantify the creative industries, but then when COVID hit, it was pivoted to quantifying the effects of the pandemic on the various creative industries in Cebu. So that took up most of my year last year. And this year, I've been helping a bunch of different movements, whether it's in Cebu or with Kongtof and Atchib and all that. So yeah, it's been kind of busy.
I guess so. Everyone's been kind of scrambling, right, to find a new place in a new world.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Cebu, being one of the biggest cities in the country, presents a lot of challenges. My friends in Cebu are from the creative and music sectors as well. The nighttime economy, as as Erwin would call it, and I'm sure that Cebu is on a mad dash to figure things out on how to keep presenting a stage for creativity.
Yeah, and especially now also that we have so much built tourism infrastructure that is so underutilized and so affected. So I've actually been also involved with the Cebu City Tourism Commission the last year, just to help reboot tourism, which is, as you know, a very big challenge for I guess for all of us around the country.
Right. Yeah, actually, that's what I love about Cebu. I haven't been back in a while, but every time I've been back, I'm actually a bit different because I live by the beach, so I don't go to Cebu for the beach. I've gone to watch to go out to the clubs and watch a rock gig that my friends are playing in. And that's tourism for me. It's very much what I was talking about. I try to seek out these enclaves of artists and musicians and see where the pulse is at in Cebu. And I've never been disappointed in Cebu. And so and some of my best friends are actually from there and live there right now. So I've been wondering how the creative community has been coping.
So we look forward to welcoming you back when things get better.
I hope so, man. Okay, I'll take it to Lino, who's from Taguig. There is a massive, creative population in Taguig. So Lino, maybe you can tell us about the last year, and also what what the near future looks like for Taguig and the creative economy there.
Hi, kiddo. Yeah, unang-una, Butch, no, I'm such a fan of, I love Cebu. I was married in Cebu. No, my wife and I really chose to spend the most important, day of our life there. We spent a few days there. Kami lang, it was a small wedding, and every time I need to be recharged, no, before I found LU, there was Cebu. So I also shot a lot of when I was a director in ABS-CBN, I also shot a lot in Cebu, and I was also privileged to witness, I think around 2010, 2011, the launching of a local telenovela, no, in the local language. So that's something na, there's so many great Cebuano, Bisaya filmmakers, di ba, who are looking for the opportunity to tell their stories there, not in Manila, kasi usually pag kwento ng Cebu, dadayain natin sa Manila i-shoot, di ba? So there's been a strong movement to really go there, shoot there, tell the stories that are local. So anyway, just wanted to share that, Butch, no, na you have a friend and a partner here in Taguig.
Thank you, Mayor Lino.
Kiddo, yeah, like you, I really resonated with your stories, with what it was sentimental. I was texting our friend, no, Erwin, it was very sentimental listening to you, watching the video. A lot of people, like Cebu and LU, a lot of people are parang honorary residents. No, a lot of us who don't feel feel like Cebuano kami o taga LU kami because of the ties, the memories that we have with those places. So thank you for sharing that, kiddo. Thank you for sharing your experience. It's been hard, like any city. You guys have been hit hard, the tourism sector. Kami naman, Taguig is the financial center, no, of the NCR, or one of the big financial centers. But like you, we're using this time to grow, to get stronger. We're focusing on really development with sustainability, where we use the time to study where does Taguig want to be. Not just in the country, where do we want to be in this world? Are we going to be a Singapore, a Copenhagen, a Hong Kong? And we really are focusing on, we need sustainability to go side by side with development. And baliwala yung development if we don't already, plant the foundations of sustainability. And really attached to that is a focus on creativity. So I think that's why we're here. That's why I was excited to listen to you and to guest here. Creativity is so important. Butch would know this. Kasi ang gobyernong gobyerno. Pati yung mga events namin, may papadala yung national government. Ito ang dapat na dasal, ito ang dapat na theme, ito ang mga dapat na gagawin sa program 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you don't inject creativity into government, I think we're in trouble. So I'm glad there are people like you who are engaging us also.
I'll jump right into the questions, Lino, and this is for both of you and Butch. It's first, how does the LGU play a role in developing and nurturing creative clusters or communities within your jurisdiction? So Butch, maybe you can tell us a bit about your experience in Cebu, how you've dialogued with the local government to develop helpful solutions for creative clusters, communities, sectors in Cebu.
Great.
And then Lino, we'll get to you next.
Great. Yeah, obviously, of course, LGUs play an important role in encouraging the development of creative communities and clusters by introducing platforms for engagement and empowerment and fostering a collaborative and inclusive environment for the city's creative practitioners. However, we also acknowledge that this is not just the LGU's charge. Hindi lang LGU lang. In our bid in 2019 for UNESCO, we introduced the idea of the Creative Cebu Grid, which is composed of local national government units, the academe, civic society, and the business sector. This grid was really designed to continuously assess the state of the city's creative sectors, identify and bridge gaps, and align strategies and initiatives. So hopefully redundancies are reduced and synergies are achieved. Obviously, COVID have set us back quite a bit because everyone's kind of focused on that. But we're hoping to really fully energize this grid by Cebu Design Week in the latter part of this year. And we'll be launching an online gateway to serve as the online persona of this grid, as you know, as the country is still kind of in semi-lockdown mode.
Lino, could you tell us a bit about the LGU and your role in developing creative clusters in this
Right.
time?
I think Butch, I don't think I can say it better than how Butch articulated it, no? But it's really for us in the LGU to create an environment for creatives to flourish and then stay out of the way. No, so like Butch said, no, there are people like you guys. We just need to create that environment so that you can come in. And aside from that is also yung planting the foundation. So in Taguig, we're opening the first local school for the arts.
Wow.
So this coming school year, we'll start that. And then every year we're going to build it so it can be bigger and bigger, trying to get our public school system working closely with DepEd to understand how important it is to expose kids to the arts. How my experiences in UP, baka mas importante pa yung ACAD at yung Sunken Garden kaysa sa mga buildings sa UP because I learned more walking, eating, experiencing the environment. So I think that's something local government can do also. Infrastructure. So in Taguig, we're building outdoor amphitheaters overlooking the lake. We're building creative spaces, more parks, safe spaces. We're converting all our basketball courts into community centers so that people know that they can go somewhere, they can feel safe. So I think in general, there's a lot the LGUs can do, but really it's creating that environment so people like you, people in the arts, can flourish and then really get out of the way. Kasi minsan, government dictates too much.
Yeah, I like that you bring up that you started with UP, Lino, because my wife was in the faculty in UP immediately before moving here. So she was quite young, straight from college, was employed by UP. And for a few years, we were living there, in the area rather. And I always thought that there was so much for Philippine cities to learn from how UP had allotted just space. And I think that living in La Union was our attempt at kind of actualizing that for our family, right? Living closer to nature, but in a place where we could be creatives. Like my wife and I, we're entrepreneurs. I love design. We design space and social programs for our staff, but it's rooted in this ideal space of nature.
That's I think on point yon, Kido, di ba, Butch?
Yeah.
Sometimes space is overlooked. Space.
Right.
I shared the same, I studied in UP, then immediately I taught in UP. So I was there around 9 years straight. And just the space, that
Right.
environment to cultivate creativity. Yeah. And I think that's what we have in LU, what we have in some areas in Cebu. Parang nalulok over, Butch, di ba? Especially in LGU, you want to keep building and building. But sometimes the most simple thing like pocket parks, slow streets that you close down can do a lot for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think placemaking is one of the key pillars of design and really involves a number of disciplines, right? From architecture, landscapes, graphic, interiors. But oftentimes, many designers really fall prey to generic global trends without rooting themselves in local traditions, cultures, and environments. So parang it gets lost. So that's what I really appreciated with one of the things I really appreciated about your video, Kiddo, because you guys really have remained authentic to that, to your environment, to the vibe, to the local culture and traditions. And that's fantastic.
Kiddo, to jump on what Butch was saying, baka you don't know, but do you know I brought my principals and the heads of DepEd Taguig to your spot, and exactly where your DJ is, you had a wide shot, a top shot,
right.
Of that amphitheater. We were there. We were there for mga 3 hours talking about the future of Taguig schools and how important the environment was. Not just build more classrooms, but how do we make aesthetically inspiring spaces for students. So Case in
Right.
point, no, the best way for me to share what I wanted to share with our principals was bringing them to your space. So we were
Yeah.
there, I think, 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we always love having you over. I think I may have seen that group, Lino, and so when you one of the times you're around with a bus now with a busload of people, as you are prone to do when you visit La Union, and we really appreciate you coming around a lot. Well, um, the idea of social design or social spaces around nature, like I think that La Union accidentally stumbled upon that because we're much younger than Cebu, we're much younger than Taguig. As a I don't think you would consider us a city yet, but there is, like I said in my talk, a rural migration. There's an increase of resident population that is more diverse. So I think when we moved here over a decade ago, it was largely northern. The culture was largely La Union, but now it's becoming more and more of a melting pot. Of course, with the internet, with the rise of millennials taking more influential roles, both in government and the private sector, we're seeing the identity shift quite quickly. No, and it's refreshing to see leadership in other cities as well, where it's happening in a different way from different fronts. No, like I'm in independent business, you're in the private sector in policy making, but it seems like that's the zeitgeist right now. And the pandemic has kind of brought to the front a lot of feelings we had in the back of our heads about how cities should be designed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, jumping to Butch's point earlier, I've been reading a lot about they call it low tech design or traditional indigenous thinking informing design, and that's something that we've been trying to apply in the Great Northwest as a tourist place because we firmly believe that people travel to La Union not to have another urban center, not to have a replica of, to have a second-rate version of a skyscraper or a building from or a structure from what name your city or name whether it's BGC, Makati, Cebu, but they want to come to experience La Union. And I think design and speaking in the local vernacular, building in materials that are local and produced nearby. These are textures that, from a design standpoint, speak to the heart of where people, to the heart of people, to their subconscious, no, to their desire for something more human. And yeah, it's a massive conversation. I'm honestly a bit overwhelmed with the breadth of this conversation and the limitation of time that we have because I could go on for days about design of space. And I don't even I don't own this property, the Great Northwest, but my partner Mia does, and I'm very privileged to be one of her top accomplices in trying to redesign and rethink how we do tourism here. But yeah, we're always thinking about it. And I think that the theme that we're on now, again, with space and your ideas about amphitheaters and public spaces, I think this is going to be an extremely relevant discussion, not just for small towns like La Union, but for big cities like Taguig. And there's going to be a lot. I think that the interplay is where the magic happens. No, the interaction, the bumping of heads on occasion, often I would say, but fleshing out what works, right? And I think that we're all in. There's a consensus across whether it's a party line, a philosophical line, a regional line, that we want public space. We want better access to public space. We want transport to those spaces to be easier. We want pockets in our neighborhoods. But we want to enjoy outdoor dining, for example. I don't know. I've seen that that's a thing in Taguig that you've been assisting the F&B community in.
Yeah,
In Cebu, is that a thing, Butch?
Yeah, it's a big thing. And actually in Cebu, what's really big now is Highlands, actually, Highlands tourism.
Okay.
Which
Okay.
actually accounts for, which a lot of people don't know, account for 70% of the city's land area. But before
Wow.
the pandemic was really underappreciated. So now you're seeing an explosion and a boom of establishments up there, which is fantastic.
I have a really good friend. One of my best friends is a cyclist in Cebu, and he's always doing these ascents up to the top of mountains,
Yeah.
taking a selfie, having a coffee.
Yeah.
And then in La Union, that's the thing too. Like this morning, I was at the opening of our shop at 8 o'clock kanina, and it was filled with cyclists. Can you, Lino, is that something that's happening? I haven't been to BGC in almost 2 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
But yeah, but is that what's happening in BGC? Like,
Yeah,
can we talk
we're
a bit about cycling? Because it's a phenomenon that I'm seeing in Cebu because one of my best friends is from there. Is it
Right, yeah.
what's happening in Taguig with cycling?
very much also, Kido. No? Ako, I'm a cyclist. I've been cycling for mga 2 decades na siguro.
Mm-mm.
It was really my therapy after my transplant. No? So
Right.
very close to my heart kami ng sister ko yung cycling, and we've biked in Cebu, we've biked in La Union. But I'm very happy that Taguig over the last few years, especially during the pandemic, has really transformed into a cycling city.
Right,
Particularly for commuter cyclists. So sa amin, that's so important. So right now, we have 40 kilometers of dedicated bike lanes.
Wow.
So you can bike from BGC to Uptown, cross C5, go to Bikutan where we have our beautiful lakeshore.
Amazing.
Without all in dedicated bike lanes. So imagine Bikutan, which is quite far away, di ba, mga 15 kilometers. When I was here in McDonald's in McKinley in Uptown, I met 3 Taguig employees who would bike from Bikutan every day in the dedicated bike lanes. So it's something that again, it's not Taguig alone. No? It's the private sector working closely with Ayala, with BGC management. We're really trying to create the foundations for long-term active mobility in Taguig. So, people going to work in their bikes. And interestingly, the one heading this program is a 22-year-old fresh grad from Ateneo who's
Amazing.
now doing his urban planning masters in UP. So it's the young people, and he makes me look good, no? But it's the young people who are doing all the work.
That's fantastic.
Lino, to tie cycling into tourism, a few years ago when our company survived 5 years, we thought, okay, instead of taking a dividend as partners, let's travel to Europe and learn about infra and tourism in cities like Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Finland, Sweden. And cycling is everything there. Like, you're not cool if you have a sports car in Copenhagen, or so our local friends there told us. You're cool if you bike, diba? It's not cool. It's not as cool, rather, to have a flashy sports car as it is to just bike to where you need to go. And it speaks of a very progressive way of thinking, I believe, where it provides access to the city for everybody.
Right. I think, Kido, also with Zoom, because of everything that was accelerated during the pandemic, a lot of people look at it as, I have so much screen time now. I spend too much time in the computer. Pero what we notice, it allows a lot of our citizens and our employees to have time to bike, to go out of their house. So they'll do Zoom. You'll bike to another spot. You'll bike to another coffee shop. You'll do another meeting. So actually, if you balance it properly, because this is more accepted right now, there's a way to actually be more mobile, even if you're working from home. And we see a lot of young workers in Taguig doing that now, traveling around in their bicycles, carrying their laptops in their bags. And it turns out to be, it fuels more creativity. And I think the work output ultimately becomes better when you have happy people working.
Right. You know what, Lino, do you qualify people crossing from other municipalities as domestic tourism? Because if it's easy to bike around BGC, to have your meeting, to do your Zoom there, connectivity and signal are good.
Yes, 100%. No, I was thinking that when you were talking about yung tourism, no, kami yung transient tourism, yung daytime tourism, that's big in Taguig. No, we're connected now with Pasig and Mayor Vico. We're connected now with San Juan and Mayor Francis. And it's the same way, no? Our citizens bike there, they hang out there, they go back, and ganun din sila. They bike to BGC or somewhere in Taguig, and then they cross to Manila. So yeah, it's they buy a cup of coffee here, they buy lunch in Manila Bay. It's good for everyone.
Right. Even the new Pasig Bridge, from what I understand, again, only on social media, but I heard that this is cutting travel time and creating more access for people.
Yes, and Secretary Mark Villar said that bikes will be allowed there. So we're very happy.
Wonderful.
When we opened it, the next day there were cyclists from Pasig using the overpass going to Taguig and vice versa. So we're happy that also the young people in government now also accept that, you know, we need to build. Dati ang hirap, my sister Pia had such a hard time advocating for bike lanes. Ngayon, when they built C6, meron ng island for a bike lane. We didn't need to
Amazing.
put cones because protected na siya. So I think a lot
Right.
of young people also in government makes for more progressive thinking. No?
That's amazing. That's awesome. You know, I think a lot of the discourse, and for me, the foundation of development and planning. Not that I'm an expert like you, except that, you know, I'm on the ground. I'm a very involved stakeholder in my community, I guess you could say. The main building block is discourse, and as much as you know, there can be a lot of negativity on social media, especially towards government from the private sector. I wanted to ask you quickly, Lino, this is a ad lib, I guess, but how you as a younger leader feel about the discourse that for example, that cyclists can say, we want this, we want to be able to cross the bridge. How does the government feel about discourse like that, and how does it respond to that?
Ako, Kido, we need it. You know, tayo, we've had so many conversations, diba, about government, about politics, and we respect each other. And I think we like listening to each other, even if we don't always think the same way.
Right,
and I think it's like that. No, the first thing we did in Taguig was really hire young people because we want to hear what they have to say. Right now in government, I think it's important that everyone has a platform to say what they feel. As long as slowly as we go further into this discourse, everyone understands that, like you, we may criticize, but it's because we want to build something better together.
Right,
so yeah,
right.
no, as long as we're criticizing, not to destroy, but to build.
Right.
I think us in government has to accept that. Just a last example, no, like kami, what we did is we created a Bike Taguig group. Yung Bike Taguig group has around 25,000 members, and it's a closed group. Every day, the bikers there in Taguig tell us about the problems. But it's okay. Kasi it's a way for them to tell us. And if we have suggestions, we ask, ano tingin nyo dito? Shared lane ba to? Or lagyan natin ng dedicated lane? Ano ang problema sa kalyeng to? It helps us get feedback. And sometimes, nakakapagod because instead of a happy Bike Taguig group, everyone tells them about the problems. Pero kung hindi namin nakikita yon, hindi namin alam yung problema.
Exactly.
So, it's always something that I think will make government better when you listen to people, even if it's stuff you don't want to hear.
Thank you for that, Lino. That's really helpful, and I had no doubt that was your position, by the way. I just wanted it on record. And I wanted you to be able to share those amazing experiences. I had no idea that Taguig was that involved with the mobility conversation on social media. And I think that can serve as some sort of model for LGUs and other stakeholders, consultants that are working with government to create solutions. Okay, I've got to move along with some more of our questions. Can we talk about tourism development plans at the LGU level? Butch, is there, what's happening in Cebu?
What's happening in Cebu? Well, okay, so what we're trying to do in the Tourism Commission actually is just just improving our inventory right now and making sure that our tourism, we're cataloging our tourism assets, whether it's attractions, activities, accommodations, other tourist facilities, logistics, and other infrastructure. And tweaking our visitor profiles pre-pandemic. And then we're like, okay, do we try to come up with a plan to attract more of the target market, or should we pivot? And if we do pivot, what are the interventions needed to make our repositioning effective? So we've identified 4 priority areas. So I talked about highlands already. Urban is another area, coastal tourism is another area, and heritage. A 5th area that I've been trying to push the commission into is creative tourism, which is highly customizable, very involved, and beyond the beach experience, because Cebu City doesn't actually have a beach. That's Lapu-Lapu, which allows holidaymakers the possibility to develop their creative potential in a variety of fields, whether it's cooking, dance, painting, photography, etc. And which are very much linked to the cultures and traditions of the city. So not only do you have a much more involved and I would like to say empowered tourists, but you also have the potential of them staying longer and making more of an impact. I've had friends who come over the years wanting to be just tourists, but end up taking artistic residencies, working with companies, working with communities, and then selling whatever they come up with here abroad, which actually I think really magnifies their contributions. It's not just a tourist who comes here, spends 3 days laying around the beach, but you have people who are very connected with the communities, with the people who keep on coming back and keep on contributing and helping tell Cebu stories around the world. So that's hopefully something that we'll be able to really launch more of later this year.
Nice. Thank you, Butch. I'm going to get into some audience questions. So this is from Angelica Gutierrez, and it's for me. Hi, Mr. Cosio. I think it's amazing that during the pandemic, you were able to create a plan that made sure founders, managers, line cooks, etc., had the same income. I'm really curious about how you were able to fund this. Was it all from your online store? First, how are we able to do it? First is to decide that you're going to do it. I think that policy, whether it's in the private sector and the public sector, it comes from a deeply rooted philosophy of how you believe the world should be. My world in El Union is just 20 people. Right? It's 20 people. It's big for a coffee shop, but it's tiny insofar as a constituency goes. But it was rooted in a belief that some of us have needs and some of us have abilities. Now, the company had an ability to provide for those needs. If we were playing only by the rules of, let's call it capitalism, and I'm agnostic to that term, technically my coffee shop is a capitalist endeavor, but it is also informed by philosophies that are borrowed from other schools of thought. No? And so we're coming off a bull run in tourism. La Union is the most, from what I understand, traffic domestic tourist destination for the millennial and younger generation. That means that every Friday through Monday, we're getting a massive swell. At least throughout 2016 to 2020, we were getting thousands of tourists every weekend. And coming on the tail end of that bull run, we did have some savings as a company. But again, because we had a philosophy that was rooted not just in profit, but also in people and in the planet, we decided to put our money where our mouth was. Why have those values if when those values need to be tapped, you're not gonna tap them, right? Why have a bank account and save for a rainy day when a rainy day happens, your company's not gonna put out for your people. So we felt very strongly that was why we started this company to begin with. First, it was so that me and my family could live in a place we desired with public space by the beach, etc., all that we've said. But as the company grew, we thought that the only way to stay authentic to those values and that origin story, so to speak, was to scale that across our staff. And so we reinvested company earnings, and with the permission, and we didn't even need the permission of our partners, to be honest. We are all on the same page about surviving and holding on to our team, which we did successfully throughout the pandemic. So we reinvested our income into in short, if you want the short answer. But even deeper than that is a foundational philosophy about what the human experience should be. Now, should a founder be the only one that survives through a pandemic, tas bahala na kayong line cooks? No, like if you run a company that way, maybe you should shutter during a pandemic. Maybe you don't deserve to make it through, right? But if you're the kind of, and I say that I'm not trying to be scathing, but I'm just saying that the pandemic has brought to the fore the need for humanity, the need for human thinking. The societies that made it through the pandemic and you quote unquote won, a lot of them were run by mothers who thought of the country as their children. Everyone praises Jacinta Ardern, for example. And we thought, my wife is actually the general manager of our company, not me. I'm the founder and creative director. I'm involved in product and design. But my wife made a lot of decisions based on her philosophies, again, coming from UP also. So you can understand kind of what informed the decision we were making. So that would be my main decision. How do you fund it? First is deciding that you're going to fund it, and then building, and then allotting what's already existing, and then building new solutions. So the web store, yes, it absolutely also played into it. again, the decision to buy from our suppliers in the Cordilleras, the specialty coffee farmers, that was not a financial decision only. It was a risk that we took because we're young and young people should take risks, but calculated risks, right? And it was also a decision that we would bleed, because we did bleed for a few months, but it was a controlled bleed. And we put our education and our knowledge to the test. And with a controlled bleed, you can make it through. So if that's any consolation or encouragement to small businesses that are in the same boat as us, if you can come together around those values and philosophies, and as leadership, a lot, again, to those who are in need, then I think you should. That's what we did, and it's been working for us. And we don't spend on marketing, to be honest. The marketing is true stories. That's it, right? True stories of people that are well taken care of. And you don't need to create this pretty picture, the cinematic picture. You just have to roll camera. And I think that's what our non-narrative documentary that's airing in the sessions part of this Hop-In conference. You can watch all 3 hours of La Union long form. It's really just shining a camera on 3 hours of La Union life, and it's going to be on YouTube and on this platform Hop-In for all of those watching. So that's my answer. I hope that answered your question, Angelica. I'll move on to the next question because we're coming into the last 7 minutes of our chat. Butch and Lino. Looking forward, how do you think we can encourage the younger generation and or older generations to actively engage with physical creative hubs post-pandemic, especially now since there is an increasing shift to digital mediums? So how do we encourage people to, I guess, to get outside, to interact in physical space again? Butch, maybe we can start with you again, and then Lino, you go next.
Yeah, I mean, there are many different kinds of creative spaces, right? So they don't have to be just digital media types. So if you can also talk about maker spaces and galleries and all that. And there is something to be said for actual human interaction that contributes to your creativity. So as opposed to you just sitting in front of a screen, sure, you can still be creative, but you may not get that spark. So as long as you make these hubs compelling enough where people of any age can actually realize and actualize and commercialize their ideas and their designs and their thoughts, then you shouldn't have any problems attracting them post-pandemic when it's safe again.
Lino?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll give a very government answer galing sa gobyerno. But I think it's important also. It's really kami in government, we want to make sure that that we're safe. Now, in the middle of the pandemic, I think our job is to make sure that we communicate that the spaces under our jurisdiction are safe and that we're working closely with the local stakeholders to make it safe. We want you to feel that if you're in Metro Manila, you can go to our parks in Taguig, you will be safe. You can dine outdoors in Taguig, you will be safe. So I think in the middle of the pandemic, that's something that we need to work harder on, that people know that they're safe and they're actually safe. It's not just marketing. We're working hard now in vaccination. If you're ever in Taguig, Kido or Sir Butch, our spaces here in SM Aura and High Street, they're creative spaces, no? You'll get vaccinated, but there are paintings by local Taguig artists where our vaccination hub is open till midnight. We want you to dine and get vaccinated. So I think vaccination and then helping really creating safe spaces, literally and figuratively, is really important moving forward so people feel comfortable going out of their homes.
I've actually seen a lot of feedback from friends from Taguig who are raving about the vaccine sites that you just spoke of, Lino. So I'm not just saying that because you and I, we talk pretty bluntly with each other ever since, but they've been having a great experience, getting vaccinated in Taguig while also participating in the local economy, even in dining, for example, which I consider to be in the creative economy as well. It is a culinary art. So we really appreciate that. As we wind down the session, we're down to our last 4 or 5 minutes. what again for Butch and for Lino, how do you envision the landscape of your respective cities post-pandemic? What are your goals? What do you want to happen in a nutshell after this pandemic winds down, once vaccines roll out and we can start to be normal again? How would you have it for Cebu, Butch?
Okay, that's a loaded question.
Bullet points.
Bullet points. I think this pandemic has really shown us that maybe our past paths were not correct, and it's forced us to really rethink our past trajectories, and rethink and really frame it in a way that doesn't really make sense. And I hope that we're able to come out of it stronger, more introspective, more respectful of each other, the planet, and the future. So, yeah.
Lino?
Ako rin, I think I can't, it's a loaded question, no? But let me start with just saying that, Butch, I hope I can talk to you, spend more time just listening to you and sharing ideas. Same with you, Kido.
We have a project and I want to recruit you for na.
I'll get your number from Kido and I'll message you, sir, within the day.
Yeah,
And I think
Cheers.
that's really where I see the future of our city. More conversations. We have to have an open mind. The pandemic has some opportunities. I don't like saying new normal. I want to talk about the new future because I think naka-reset lahat yung mind natin ngayon. I can talk to the traditional stakeholders and be able to pitch ideas that they would have said no to before. But because everyone's gone through this pandemic, everyone is in a reset mode. It's the perfect time to talk about the new future. So I think what's important is to have a lot of conversations, a lot of dialogue, to listen, to reinvent how government thinks, and really to be able to unleash the power of the private sector and the creative minds. So looking forward to talking to you, Sir Butch and Kido. Hope I can visit
That's
you.
one thing we're really, and it's a new project, and I think you would be fantastic in it.
Cheers. Yeah, for me personally, for La Union, I love what Lino said about conversations, right? And also kind of putting an asterisk on the term normal. I actually think that I share the same sentiment. Let's call it imagination. Let's call it future. Let's call it creativity, right? Let's design something, the society that we want, right? And so for me in La Union, that means welcoming the influx of rural migrations, people who have rethought their life and have decided, you know what, I'm going to move to the beach and I'm going to live there from now on. We welcome them and they're going to practice here. So outside my window is a co-working space that is safely filled with new residents that are working from here in La Union. And I see that happening more and more. And I think that it's going to change the face of our cities. Social media and the discourse we're allowed to have with government and those that are making decisions. We're very grateful for them. We're grateful for the listening ear of our government. And we hope that that will be the trend as we create and imagine the future. So as one from a small town, from a neighborhood to your neighborhood, I'd like to thank you for taking the time. If you have any final words before we close this, Butch?
I love your story. Thank you for sharing. Again, as Marilino said, I wish we had more time, but I really cannot wait to visit La Union now. I can't wait to see you guys keep on evolving, keep on making mistakes, as we all do, as it's part of the process, and see how your journey pans out.
Cheers. Lino?
Maybe Erwin and Kido can host in LU a creative summit for us, no, Butch? So we have a reason to travel over there. But thank you. Thank you, Kido. Keep inspiring. Please, regards to the team. Please send our love.
We will. Thank you so much. And we're on it. We're working on something that can bring you here, of course, safely and in good time. Once again, thanks so much for being part of this discussion and hearing us out about La Union. I'll turn it back over to our direct. And thank you once again from La Union. And we hope to see you again here soon. Bye, everyone.